Hi, everybody. Well, here we go. The National Weather Service earlier today discarded the winter storm watch or postponed it to start early tomorrow morning. I think their timing is at 4 a.m. and then it goes through at least Saturday evening. That makes sense. You know, it was always, we talked about this yesterday. Today, Friday, primarily the day that the cold Arctic air came in. Some flurries, maybe a light snow shower, maybe even a scattered light dusting somewhere, but nothing substantial. We were very clear about that with the moisture that we're concerned about, the accumulating snow, the accumulating sleet, the accumulating freezing rain, all starting later overnight tonight into early tomorrow morning, coming up from the South Valley and then pushing inland and then through the mid-morning hours, picking up into Portland. And then everybody's got steady, fairly heavy precipitation into the afternoon. So none of that has changed. With that said, I do want to begin with the updated because there are some changes to the watch warning map from the National Weather Service. And a couple of things I want to point out here. Number one, and this makes sense. We talked about this yesterday. This dark color right in here, Albany, Cottage Grove, Florence, Corvallis. This is an ice storm warning. This is the area that the Weather Service believes is at highest risk for significant icing. That could be a lot of freezing rain with some sleet mixed in. Now, keep an eye on, so I remember yesterday we said Eugene up in Albany, probably the bullseye of the heaviest icing. Maybe that heavy icing zone would extend up into Salem. And by heavy icing, I'm going to show you in a moment how much we're talking about in these areas. Meanwhile, the area of Vancouver, Portland, this was a winter storm watch. Now it's a winter storm warning that will be going into effect during the day tomorrow as the heavier precipitation comes in. We have advisories or warnings expected for accumulating snow and ice all the way to the coast and up into Cowlitz County. That hasn't changed. See this little red color right here? This extends into East Multnomah County, pretty much to Troutdale, and then to Hood River. So pretty much from Troutdale to Hood River in the gorge, a blizzard warning. Remember, east winds are going to pick up overnight tonight. Some of the modeling, and I'll show you this, shows winds as high as 60 miles per hour going into early tomorrow afternoon from the east with snow falling in the gorge. And obviously that's going to reduce visibilities to near nothing. Wouldn't be surprised if 84 is closed. I mean, if there starts to be some accidents because of snow, extreme cold, icy roads, blowing snow, they'll shut that down. So keep an eye on I-84. Otherwise, wind chill advisories right here. This is up to the Columbia Basin, north of Columbia River, that baby blue. Not only up in the mountains, but some of the Columbia Basin and East Gorge areas, in Central Gorge for that matter, also talking about wind chill factors approaching 25 degrees below zero. So today it's been pretty, it's been pretty quiet and calm overall. I mean, yes, we've had the colder air marching in, but other than that, it really hasn't been that bad. We've just had, clouds, some flurries, and really cold weather. A reminder, we just talked about the wind chills, that it looks like Portland from the early morning hours into the afternoon is going to spend the day in this 15 to 20 degree range with east winds gusting 20 to 40 miles per hour. That'll put the wind chill tomorrow anywhere from 0 to +4 to -8. Again, this is the type of cold that we just don't often see. You need to have your extremities covered if you're going to spend any time outdoors whatsoever. All right, so some headlines. Again, this is precipitation for the most part starting late tonight after midnight, going into the early morning hours of tomorrow. And the farther north you go, the little bit delayed, the heavier precipitation will be. So for Portland, if you're up early, 6, 7 o'clock, yeah, I think it's snowing. Maybe we wake up to a dusting of snow on the ground. But the precip rates themselves will be picking up starting mid-morning and then become really heavy going into the afternoon. So tonight's flurries, maybe some light snowers around, not really worried, especially through the midnight hour. Saturday, significant accumulations of ice and snow. This is a broad range. Portland Metro, anywhere from at least 3 inches of something on the ground would be a combination of sleet and snow to as much as 8 inches on the ground of a combination of sleet and snow. So whenever you start to mix up ice and snow, it compacts and it makes it difficult to tell, you're going to get this much or you're going to get this much. It still looks to me like we have potentially a 1/2 of an inch of liquid moisture coming in to deal with. If that were all snow, yeah, it could be 6, 7, 8 inches. And keep in mind also, this is the type of cold air we don't see. The dew points tonight are going to drop all the way to 4 degrees with air temperatures dropping in the mid-teens with gusty east winds blowing out of the gorge, increasingly so. That is a type of low, humid, cold air we seldom see. And it's very possible that that will eat up a lot of the moisture amounts that are being projected, which would be another reason why maybe we live down here in the 2 to 3 area, but we're certainly going to keep this wide range of possibility open. One more headlines, and then I'll get back to what some of the data is showing. Salem, Albany, Eugene, we just looked at this. The ice storm warning now in play for you folks. Light freezing rain, sleet, late overnight into early tomorrow morning, but then becoming heavy through mid-morning. Icing anywhere from 1/4 of an inch to the worst hit areas could get 1 inch to 1.25 inches of icing. Again, Eugene, Albany, some of the modeling shows bad icing up into Tillamook County as well. 1 inch of icing would absolutely produce widespread power outages. We talked about this yesterday. Some of the rural areas especially could be days before the power gets back on. And this just absolutely paralyzes travel, as I'm sure you can guess. And notice on the bottom of these graphics, everything says that the storm ends Saturday night. That timing still pretty quickly. This is the one graphic I have courtesy of KGW TV. By the way, I will be broadcasting. I'll be the weatherman in front of the weather maps on Channel 8, KGW TV, tomorrow morning between 6 a.m. and 9 a.m. on their sunrise show. I hope you can tune in and join me as we update the forecast. But this is a pretty accurate depiction of what it could be looking like. By 10 o'clock in the morning, generally speaking, precip rates have increased all the way up into the Columbia River. The blue and white up here is snow, light and Longview starting to pick up into Portland. This is salmon colors, all of this icing, Eugene, Newport, Salem, Tillamook, all the way up into the Wilsonville area, extending into parts of Clackamas County up into the Cascades. And see the little specks? This is showing there's a mixture of some sleet with snow into Portland. So this shows you how widespread all this is. It does show kind of a mixture from the Central Coast, Lincoln City southward of some rain and ice. I don't think this is right. I don't know why this would show rain flanking over here east of Eugene. That makes no sense to me. That's got to be snow and ice. Absolutely. This is Saturday at 10 o'clock in the morning. Okay, let me get you out of this and let's get in and start looking at some of the imagery. By the way, this is a current temperature map. So at 4 o'clock this afternoon, down to 28 in Portland. Remember we talked about that. It was 38 to 40 early this morning. Temperatures have steadily dropped all day as we expected. Not much of any moisture. We've had some flurry sightings. That's been it. It's 9 in Pendleton. It's -4 up in Pullman. Washington State, it's 1 in Spokane. It's 18 in Seattle. All this Arctic air dropping to the south. The Arctic air has moved down into Bend where it's 19, but so far not Salem and not Eugene and not Newport. Astoria is at 30 degrees. Okay. Satellite picture, what do we got? So this is the visible image. So it's becoming dark up in Canada, but right in here, the clouds extend up through Washington and then it goes clear. This is that Arctic air dropping in. There's a little bit of a northwesterly flow feed in along the Arctic air today that's produced some flurries, but really just traceable amounts of moisture. Right back in here, see this little curl? That's the low developing that's going to move in. Some of the modeling takes this low into Astoria. The other models take it more into like Newport tomorrow, but as it approaches the coast tomorrow morning, this becomes a moisture source, and then we'll really start to see precip pick up. All right, let's just take a look on the National Blended Model. We looked at this yesterday. This is just going to show you precip. Doesn't tell you if it's snow, doesn't tell you if it's rain, sleet, snow, it just shows you precip, all right? So it's just going to show you the timing when the thicker moisture starts to arrive in terms of precip. So here we are today. Any moisture is well to our south. We're not doing anything. I'm going to stop this 4 a.m. Saturday morning, showing moisture starting to pick up into Eugene, but the rest of us not much. Again, this is 4 a.m. Here is 10 o'clock in the morning. Now the heavier moisture bands up through Salem, maybe significant icing. Heavy moisture bands just from the south to the north, moving up into Portland. This might be a little slow. I think if you're up early in the morning, 6, 7, there's not much going on, but by mid-morning, 8, 9, I would start to look for moisture coming up from the south. And then here we are at 4 in the afternoon. Notice a sharp cutoff to the north. The sharp cutoff line is Kelso-Longview. Is it possible the sharp cutoff is a little bit south of Kelso-Longview and you folks miss out? I mean, you're right on the line, so that's possible. but certainly from the Columbia River southward, you see the yellow, that's some enhanced precip rates. That's pretty good moisture. See the little curl? This particular model shows that low approaching right down here, near and south of Newport. So that's that moisture feed. This is where that model puts it. Okay, let's look at individual layers of moisture. We did this yesterday. This is just going to show you total amounts. I've stopped the clock, so to speak, early Sunday morning. So this is that same national blended model. This is all freezing rain, maybe some sleet, but mostly freezing rain accumulations. This shows about a half of an inch down in Eugene, about a quarter of an inch or 3/10 into Albany, a little bit less in Salem, about a quarter of an inch of icing in Tillamook, 3/10 in parts of Lincoln County of ice. Doesn't show much ice in the Portland area, so that's a good map. Now, this is ice, but this is the European model. The European model shows much heftier amounts. This is serious. If the European model is correct, there's almost an inch and a quarter of ice accumulation in Eugene, an inch of ice accumulation in Albany, a half to 3/4 of an inch of ice across much of Marion County and back over into Tillamook County, and even up into Astoria, and a little bit of icing mixing into Portland. All right, what's this next map show? This is just snow. So you don't see anything down here where it's white because that's the ice zone, and this is only showing you snow, okay? This is a layered by layered look at what's going on. This shows about a foot of snow up in Mount Hood, 6 to 11 inches of potential snow in the gorge tomorrow with the blowing winds and the blizzard warning from Hood River to Troutdale. Shows generally 5 inches of snow in Portland across Washington County. Shows 7 inches of snow up in the Kelso Longview area. Again, I'm just tossing out a range of 3 to 8 inches, depending on location, depending on how much of the moisture the east winds eat up, and how much of it is some sort of ice that would, limit the actual depth of accumulation. Okay. This just shows you sleet. Again, this is a warmer layer in the atmosphere coming in. So you get raindrops, and the raindrops fall into a colder layer that freezes the raindrop into an ice pellet. Then that's the way it hits. Okay. You hear this kind of hitting the window, by the way. This shows mostly North Valley, Portland, Clark County, Washington County, up toward Astoria, and to some extent up into Cowlitz County, sleet. Kind of definitely mixing in with the snow, kind of what we talked about. All right. Let's take a look at temperatures. Good grief. All right. This is this afternoon. This looks like it's a little, this shows Portland down to 23 degrees. Right now it's 28. So we know this is running. Oh, no, I'm sorry, Rod. That's why these numbers are too low. This is the winds. Sometimes you got to look at the header. Pardon me. This is the wind forecast. And right here, the blue color is the east wind surging out of the gorge. So far today, the winds have been 20, 25 in the gorge. But look what happens. I'm going to stop this by 4 a.m. tomorrow. See the red bullseye? That's the 50-mile-per-hour wind setting up, blowing out of the gorge. Here is 10 o'clock. This is 10 a.m. Saturday morning. 60-mile-per-hour winds into Troutdale. All of the gorge between Hood River and Troutdale basically showing a 50-mile-per-hour wind gust. That's why the Weather Service has popped up that blizzard warning. This shows 20, 30-mile-per-hour winds through Washington County up into Tillamook and Astoria. Not nearly as much wind by the time you get to Salem and down to the south. Okay, so that's very vivid. Let's see here. Do I not have the, maybe I don't have the temperatures. Okay, all right. This is Mount Hood snow forecast. Haven't had a lot up there today. 6 to 12 tomorrow, then it's all dry. 0 up at Government Camp tonight. -1 Sunday. Bitter wind chill factors down to 25 below 0. Again, courtesy of Hillcrest Ski and Sports Store in Gresham. But again, temperatures on the mountain tomorrow, only 0 to 6, -1 to 21 on Sunday. Government Camp, 24 degrees. ODOT's been plowing it hard. You see a little pavement, but basically that's just, a thick mess. Siskiyou Summits looks clean. You had a little bit of snow up in the Coast Range. That's going to become worse tomorrow. The Coast Range traveling is going to be bad. Ice and snow accumulation. Santee Ann Pass is buried. This is over here on the right. Look at my cursor. That's I-84 at Cabbage Hill out into the Blue Mountains. And here comes the 7-day forecast. So, well, we're already down to 28. So that's where we are. We're going to drop down to 15 tonight. We'll be between 15 and 20 all day tomorrow, with at some point in the morning, light snow and or sleet starting to pick up. Coverage will develop. Everything that falls, every single snowflake that falls is going to accumulate. It's going to be really cold, obviously. And then precip rates getting heavier late morning into the afternoon, as we talked about. I expect this to be widespread sleet and snow accumulation over roadways, and it's going to be really icy harsh traveling. It all ends Saturday overnight, Sunday 15 to 28 during the day, but east wind still blowing near the gorge. Nothing is melting. Dr. Martin Luther King Day 16, but we warm up to freezing. A little bit warmer Tuesday, and then Tuesday night and Wednesday we have that weak system that may bring a little bit of a wintry mix of ice or snow before it changes to rain. I want to click. You know what? Let me go back to this temperature map. And for our friends over in Central Oregon, what's the latest forecast? You're under a winter storm warning. You folks in Bend, I wrote this down. The forecast calls for you folks in Central Oregon. I know I wrote it down to get 5 to 8 inches of snow tomorrow, 5 to 8 inches. Temperature 7 to 10. Some gusty winds as well. Your dry Sunday, 7 to 26. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day, dry 25 to 20. Boy, that is just cold stuff. And, you know, if you're curious, do I have any Cougar fans, Washington State fans? Pullman, -1 tonight, 7 tomorrow, 5 Sunday, 10 degrees Sunday afternoon. I mean, this is just brutal stuff, right? If you're going to be going up to Seattle, it's going to be dry, but very cold. I'll dry up there tomorrow, 21, 26. That's too warm because they're about that cold right now. They're going to be in the teens, and then 26, and then 23 to 31 degrees on Sunday. And with that said, I will thank you for listening. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. It helps me out on my channel. My website's portlandweather.com. I'll see you tomorrow morning between 6 and 9 a.m. on KGW TV. I'm meteorologist Rod Hill.